Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to show you how this 2016 Mustang EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine car has fared. It's got almost 93,000 miles on it, and the customer wants me to service it and tell him what kind of shape it's in. Should he get rid of it? Should he keep it? So here we go. Now I just changed the oil, and so far so good. Not burning any oil at all. A lot of people abuse 4-cylinder engines, especially turbocharged, gasoline direct injection ones like this. But almost 93,000 miles, didn't burn any oil at all. Now I took it for a road test and seemed to ride okay, but let's look at the struts. Struts are dry as a bone, there's no leaking, nothing's cracked. The brakes, we can rotate it around, we can see. When we peek in the side, they're still relatively thick. The distance between the backing plate of the brake and the rotor is still pretty thick, so the pads are in good shape. No leaks. We'll check for wear here. No play, no play. They don't bind. Go under and check the drivetrain. So far everything's beautiful. It's dry as a bone. There's no leaks. You can see the exhaust system still in immaculate shape, not rusting. And it's got the traditional saddle tanks for gas. One on one side, one on the other for more even weight distribution. And since it's a newer Mustang, it's not that old clunky suspension. It's got independent suspension in the back too, not just the front. And that's dry as a bone too. Nothing's leaking, nothing's worn out. So far this 4-cylinder Mustang's checking out pretty good, but I'm gonna let it down and we're gonna do some serious testing with the old computer. So down it goes. And out comes my fancy computer. You can't hide from these things. Get down into the nitty gritty here. There it is. We'll plug it in. There we go. Got power. And we let the old computer do its thing. Diagnostics, put it on forward, and away it goes. So he reads the VIN, starts doing its thing. As you can see, it knows what kind of car it is. Gas, turbocharged direct injection, 2.3 automatic. So we'll push yes. And now it's going to really get into some serious analytics while I rest and turn the air conditioning off. Because it may be the beginning of February, but here in Houston we're having a heat wave. The auto scan takes a while, but it scans the whole thing. It is going to give us more data than you could shake a stick at. It's found a few things. They can be major, they can be minor. The first one is the computer, the powertrain module has a fault. So we shall read it and see what it says. Retrieve codes. Here we go. Got this really long numbered code, but it's the fuel pressure sensor circuit is low. That's a problem these things often have. But if they run fine, it's the stupid sensor half the time that goes bad. A lot of guys will just live with it, but it's nothing major. So let's check some more. Well, it has two codes and they both say invalid data received from the anti-lock braking system control module. Very complex systems. They often trip codes like that, which doesn't mean anything. I'm going to reset all the codes when I'm done. And then when he drives it around, I can recheck it to see if any of them are serious or it's just stupid glitches that come and go. A lot of no faults. The last fault is in the power steering control module, so we'll check that. It's reading pretty slow. Maybe it needs to go back to school and learn how to read faster. I don't know. Again, it's similar to the other ones. Invalid data from anti-lock brake control. Lost communication with ABS. Invalid data from electronic control module. Invalid data from ABS anti-lock braking system control module. Now this is a common problem with all modern cars. They have all this computer control crap, and the computers think so fast and analyze so fast, they'll often get a little glitch, maybe a little power surge, trip a code. This thing seems to run and brake okay, but I'm going to reset them. I'll drive it and see what happens. Quick erase. We're going to erase them all and see what happens. There's no codes on any of them. We're going to do a road test in a second, but first we're going to just look at live data. Live data, watch it all. A lot of data, so as you can see, it's loading it. It can take a little while. With the information on these modern cars, boy, it will make your head spin when you see what this thing is going to show. As you can see here, look at the insane amount of data. It's going. It's going. It's going even further. And it's still going. There is a tremendous amount of data that can be analyzed. Now, you see, we're still going. We're still going. This is all fresh information. We're going even further. I mean, you think I'm making this stuff up. Look, this is how much information you can get out. Finally, we got to the end. The last one is voltage at the battery terminal. Scotty, all that data, how on earth can you possibly sit there and analyze it all? Well, I know what quite a bit of it means, but it's color-coded. If they're black, they're in normal range. They're color correct. There's a problem, it'll change colors. It'll go orange or red. But I'm going to look at some specific data parameters now that tell me a lot about this car. Now, the turbocharge is working fine, but I see all the turbocharged data. There's no faults. Things are working like they're supposed to. But if we get into the actual engine analysis, short-term fuel trim, it's going minus 0.78, 0%. 0% is absolutely perfect. So it's going quite well. I mean, if it's more than 20% off, you got a problem. And this is almost perfect. It's going between 0 and minus 0.78. And that's a very good signal that this engine is in excellent shape. Misfire events, 0. That's what you want, no misfires. The computer counts everything. And here we have learned relative octane adjustments. As I said, this vehicle will run on any kind of gasoline. If you use high-test gasoline, this one puts out 301 horsepower. If you use regular, it puts out less horsepower. But it will run perfectly fine because the computer knows how to adjust for whatever octane is in your car. Here's all the fuel injectors. 4, 3, no fault. 1, 2, no fault. That's exactly what you want to see. Here's something else you want to see. The fuel rail control pressure status is no fault. Now, it did say that there was a code for the fuel pressure sensor. So that tells me that the sensor's probably just breaking down. There's no actual problem with the car because it runs perfectly fine and it has no faults in that system. So sometimes these warning systems go a little bit too far, warn you for stuff that really is no serious matter. These babies are so sophisticated, they even know the barometric pressure to make the car run perfectly at all altitudes. We're at sea level here, they run better. But you take this baby up in the mountains, it'll compensate for it. This vehicle's in pretty good shape. Let's take it for a road test and see what happens with the stupid codes that it had before. We'll take it for a serious little road test. Away we go. And blast off. Still rides and handles nice and crisp. After all this driving, let's check the code, see if any of them came back. Okay, the only one that came back was the fuel pressure sensor B circuit low. Like I said, the sensor's probably going bad. It's a known problem on these. It runs perfectly fine otherwise, but if you wanted to keep it truly up to snuff, you'd go change that fuel pressure sensor. This 4-cylinder EcoBoost Mustang is in pretty good shape for the mileage that it has. Yeah, it's got that nagging code, and probably if you want to change the pressure sensor that's on the rail, the code will go away, but it runs perfectly fine, and the data shows that the pressure is actually perfectly fine. There's no faults on it in the computer system itself, so that's probably just some kind of ridiculous feedback from the sensor itself. Isn't giving the right data to the warning system, but it's running perfectly fine. And since they don't even stock this part at the local Ford dealer, obviously it's not something to really worry about. You'll get little glitchy things that basically you're best living with. I'll tell them to keep the car. It seems perfectly fine to me. And here's some bonus questions and answers. M. Bonifield 4 says, Scotty, I'm stuck in a decision between a 2002 Honda Accord 4-cylinder with 115,000 miles and a 2004 Honda Civic LX Auto with 152K. If you had to choose, what would be the wiser choice? The 02 is 18 years old. The other one is 16 years old. They're both relatively old cars. If you want a smaller car that gets the best gas mileage, that has the least problems, I'd go with the Civic, even though it has more mileage. The problem with the 2002 Accord is, if that automatic transmission goes up, because their engines are stronger than the Civics, it's going to cost you a fortune, and they do go out on those Honda Accords. On that choice, I would go for the Civic, but realize, it's a 16-year-old car. Don't pay too much money for it. Regardless of how good Hondas are, a 16-year-old car that comes with no warranty does not have a real high value, so you don't want to pay much for it. But I'd say that'd be the wiser one. Jason 2 says, Scotty, I got a 2010 Hyundai Elantra, 147,000 miles. The parking prowl inside my transmission won't engage and lets the car roll backwards. They want a ton of money to fix it. What should I do? I see them break all the time on those. And I got a customer, his has been broken for 5 years that way. It's called the emergency brake. That's your fix. Just when you come to a stop, pull the emergency brake on, then put it in park. The park won't keep it from rolling because the prowl is broken, but otherwise it isn't going to hurt anything. The only thing that's for is to keep the car from rolling, and the emergency brake works fine. Use your emergency brake, because it is a very expensive fix to take the whole transmission apart to change that prowl. It's not an easy job, and what the heck, emergency brakes work great. Just retrain yourself. And I know people, as you get older, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but we're not dogs, we're people, so try to train yourself to use your e-brake. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.